Okay, and welcome to the final lesson on Excel things. So for this final one, we're going to be looking at pivot tables. So you remember this is the bunch of data that I got for the task where we're looking at the weeks and the days of the week. So I've kept this bit of data, and you'll remember that after I put in the week column and the day of the week column, I went and I made a new sheet, and I was able to use SUMIFs to kind of add up my customer revenue and calculate my ROAS. And I could do that for both the weeks and the days of the week. And from that data, I was able to draw these graphs, so it looked quite nice. So that's fun. However, it was somewhat time consuming, I would say. Um, and, you know, personally, I really like SUMIFs because as soon as I edit the data, this would change. So, for instance, you know, day of week one is cost 312 at the moment. Um, if I just took out some of the cost here, like that, um, I go back, day of the week is now 309. So it kind of automatically updates, and you'll actually notice that the graph itself, um, can't quite see it, but the graph will update. Let's see if we can change this ROAS number. So it's 18.8 at the moment. So let's take out some cost. That should probably make the ROAS increase. And now it's 20. So you get like live updating graphs, which is super cool. It's really good for doing like reporting and stuff. However, you know, all that SUMIF stuff did take a while. So there is another option, which is something called a pivot table. And pivot tables are, well, they're super useful. You can only do them in Excel. So if you've got Google Sheets, this won't work for you, unfortunately. So sorry about that. So to make a pivot table, all we do is we just select all the data. So I'm going to hold Command and Shift and press the right key and then the down key to select the whole chunk of data. And I'm going to put Insert and select Pivot Table. And I always just make a new worksheet for it. So I just press OK and it does this. So straight away you've got this kind of thing and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happened? This looks weird. Don't worry about it too much. Basically, what you've got is you've got these fields up the top, and these are all the column headers from the chunk of data. And we can basically drag them into these boxes, and it makes tables out of them. So let's have a quick example. Let's try and replicate some of the other tables. So one of them was the week. And for the week, we had, I think we just had cost. We had revenue, which is all conversion value, and we had ROAS. So, so technically ROAS is all conversion value per cost, but you'll notice that it's doing sum of cost here, sum of all conversion value, and it's doing a count of this all conversion thing. We can't really add up ROAS because, you know, ROAS is essentially like a percentage as well. So let's not do that. But you'll notice that straight away it's just added up all the columns that refer to these rows. And if you ever click out the table, everything disappears. So you can just click back on it and your boxes will appear again. So it's really quickly and easily just made up this little table for me. So that's quite handy, for sure. You can also, I mean, obviously it's quite nice that it's made this little table, but what's really cool about pivot tables is that you can kind of play around with them and kind of make new tables really easily. So, you know, maybe we also want some clicks data and some impressions data. And then maybe we just want to have impressions at the top and clicks second. So okay, so I've got impressions. Clicks is still at the bottom, which is a 9. Why is it not letting me put it here? Okay, I'm just going to format those as numbers. Okay, so that's kind of somewhat useful. You'll also notice that, you know, I'm not actually using anything other than the rows box and the values box generally. let's say I wanted to add a filter. So maybe I want to only be looking at certain days of the week. So I could drag the days of the week column into here, and now it's a filter. So I could say, okay, I just want to look at, I think day 1 is Sunday, and day 7 is Saturday. So I can say, okay, I just want to be looking at Saturday and Sunday on these weeks. How many kind of impressions and costs and everything. So it's really easy to just add a filter like that, which is cool. Always make sure to put the filter back before taking it off, because if you leave the filter filtered and then you drag it out of the filter, it will still apply to the data. So anyway, there's that kind of stuff. I don't generally, well, the filters are kind of useful. I don't generally drag stuff into the columns very much, because I generally just, I want my kind of things that I'm looking at to be on the left-hand side, which is where you drag it into the rows bit. You know, maybe if I wanted to look at the week and the day of the week, I could drag the day below, and you'll see that I've now got week 30, week 31. I'm not sure quite why it's splitting that into months, but it's kind of cool. So we can get, you know, by week and by day, or we could just get rid of the, oh, what's this months column? Oh, there you go. So we've just got week and day there. Maybe we just want the day, in which case we can go like that. So that's kind of cool. Or maybe I just want to have day of week. So I can just get rid of that. Drag day of weekend. So super easy to kind of manipulate that. So I really recommend just kind of playing around, getting used to the things. It is occasionally, it's quite cool putting things in the columns box. But basically what that will do is instead of having the days of the week as these row labels, if I drag it into the columns box, it will split everything out by a different day of the week here. So if you're doing lots of values, super annoying, as you can see. However, we could, if we make it so we're just trying to look at cost, for instance, then I can see, okay, these are the days of the week by cost. Well, if we have the week there, so I can look at like week 30, 31, 32, and 33, and then I can look at individual days of the week that way. So that's kind of cool. But I would definitely recommend it if you're going to break stuff down that way, only have like one value or maybe two, because it can start to get really complicated otherwise. So yeah, I don't usually put stuff in the columns box very often, unless I'm trying to maybe compare like 2 or 3 things, or, you know, days of the week. I don't know, maybe we can compare status, does that work? Okay, so we've got some keywords below first page bid, and that's how much they've spent. The eligible keywords have spent that much, low search volume, you know, so there's kind of sometimes when you might want to put things in there, but mostly I just keep things in the rows. One more thing I want to look at is we've got our cost and we've got our value, and I did want to have my ROAS column like we had in the other sheet. So if you want to build a new column which basically calculates stuff off the other one, we can go over here to the Fields, Items and Sets button and click on it, and we can select Calculated Field. So you give it a name, so I'm going to call this ROAS, obviously. My formula, I keep the equals, and my formula, I can just double click on all conversion value divided by cost, and click OK. And now it's going to make me my ROAS column, which is calculated off of these two. And those two don't have to be there if I don't want to be them. I could just get rid of those and just go, cool, these are my days of the week, this is my ROAS. So yeah, those are pivot tables. Super convenient. I would say if you start working in any kind of marketing job, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be using pivot tables, just because they're the quickest and easiest way to manipulate data and kind of find answers. And you can, yeah, just really quickly and easily make all kinds of crazy awesome tables. And if you ever want to like make a graph, I guess, yeah, that's one more thing. Don't try and make a graph from the pivot table, because it will try and make a pivot graph, which is a waste of time. So I would just select some of the data within it and just paste it somewhere else and then make a graph with this data. Usually because I might pull that piece of data here and then maybe I want to make one graph of that stuff, which was my week stuff, and then I'm going to change it. I'm going to make some days of the week stuff. I can just copy that, paste that there, and then maybe I also wanted like ad group performance, so I can just pull that in and I can look at my ad groups. And sometimes I use pivot tables like that, so it's just as a way of kind of being able to pull / arrange data, and then I'll just copy it and paste it into somewhere else, which is a bit more static. A lot like how if I'm doing stuff with formulas, I'll like copy and paste values. Because pivot tables, can be changeable, it's best to just copy and paste them somewhere else. Yeah, and that's pretty much all you need to know about pivot tables. Enjoy!